2, 1. Oh, this is the Anna Hummel Factor episode number 6. I'll go ahead and bring Anna on for the evening. How are you doing? Well, evening,
I'm
afternoon, morning, wherever you are.
yes. I mean, we're the same time zone, so yeah, it's 8:11 now p.m.
Right. Well, I was referring to our audience, of course.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Correct. Yes. Yes. Well, it's good. Everything's good with me. Thanks for having me on. Had a great birthday on Saturday. Maybe a little bit too much fun. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting some good R&R this weekend because I think I'm peopled out for a little bit. It was a great time, but I definitely need to recoup and go back into my hidey hole cave.
Ah, okay. Maybe as far as your was it I guess was the birthday any more different than any others? Was
Oh yeah,
anything?
I never do anything for my birthday. Like I do not remember the last time I did something for my birthday other than like go home, like to California. But other than that, no, I don't plan parties. I don't even really plan dinners or anything like that. So this was probably the first thing I've done since I turned 21. So it's been probably like 13 years since I, did a little gathering. It wasn't really a party, but it was a beautiful day. There was this, my favorite bar is this rooftop bar. So I just had like all my friends come out and meet, and it was really cool. It was a good turnout. So A plus, had a great time.
Cool. So were you drunk?
Yeah, I definitely say I got drunk. I wasn't like hammered or anything, but and also just like I was out there for like 8 hours. So by the end, I was just tired. I was kind of drunk. I just wanted to be the fuck home. So I left probably like 10 p.m., but we got there like 2:15 in the afternoon. So by like 8, I was ready to go, but people were still coming in like way late. So I felt obligated to kind of stay and talk to people that came out to see me for my birthday. Obviously, that's really nice of them, but I was just so done. So I left, went to Taco Bell, and then went home and fell asleep, and it was great.
No. Do you so aside from your 21st and your 34th birthday, do you have is it common for you to like to actually celebrate birthdays? I'm just kind of curious because I personally I don't celebrate birthdays at all. In fact, I don't even remember it's my birthday until usually the day of my birthday. So,
Oh no, I know it's my birthday. I don't celebrate it. I like celebrating other people's birthday. But yeah, no, like I said before, I don't throw any parties or anything. It's just kind of my birthday. I might get a few gifts here and there, but there's no like, hey guys, come out, we're going downtown for my. No, I don't do any of that. So was very unusual. But after the last year we had, and I had COVID last month, I just wanted to get everybody together and be drunk in the sun. That's what I kept telling people. I just want to like it to be a beautiful day. I want to be outside and I want to be drunk with my friends, and I accomplished that. So I was happy.
that's cool. Yeah, to be honest, I don't even know. The usually what happens for me is well, I'll get emails on my birthday from people saying happy birthday, and I go, oh yeah, that's right, today's my birthday. So
When's your birthday?
I don't tell people when my birthday is because I don't want people to surprise me with anything. So
Oh well, some people know, right?
my family, it's about it. So
Oh, okay, okay. I
I
got you.
do. When I was working for Clear Channel, I refused to tell anybody. And then, unfortunately, the supervisor, the guy that I didn't really care for, was sneaked it out to everybody. And then they all said happy birthday on my birthday. And I didn't really care for it, so I was like, kind of,
Why do you have such a distaste for your birthday? Like I'm
I
not a
just, don't- I
celebrator,
just
but
don't,
I don't hate my birthday.
no, I don't hate that there. I just think it's kind of silly for me to celebrate it. That's all.
Why?
I just don't care. It's just not a big deal to me. The when I was a kid, I thought it was pretty cool. Get together
Sure.
with friends, but as an adult, it's like, yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal. So I
When did you
usually
start feeling that way?
probably when um, I I became an adult. For most of my life, I know for more than half my life, I guess. So
Well, what's an adult? Like 18, or like when did you
yeah,
stop?
around that. I guess. I mean, I turned 19, I started living on my own. So yeah, about that time. So.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, I like to see other people celebrate their birthday. I'm just for me, I'm just like it's not a big deal. So I'm
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think I like celebrating other people's birthdays more than my own, but
oh really?
it was cool. I haven't done anything like that, like I said, in a long, long time. So it was really fun to get everyone together. And I've been a gypsy for the last like 15 years of my life. Yeah, say. So I'll live a place for a few years and leave, live a place a few years and leave. So I always feel like, I don't have a big group of friends. Also because I always feel like I'm not staying long. But I know I'm staying here long term in Florida, and I've kind of accumulated quite a few, friends, which is not unusual, but kind of for me. So it was cool I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start inviting people, and we're gonna do something kind of big for my birthday, which I like I said never do. So it was cool. It was cool.
That's cool.
I was very pleased. It was
That
nice.
is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could have been there. So
Yeah.
we got one comment already from Thomas Sylvia or Silva. I can't or Silva. I
Okay.
can't read. Que paso? What's happened? Or what happened? Nothing. How are you, Thomas? So that's the only comment we got so far.
Okay.
Um, let's see. We can go ahead and I guess we can jump to the question of from last week. Let me see if I can bring this up. Fortunately, YouTube seems to jump these around. Last time I brought these up, they were in random order, so it may take me a second to. Oh, nope, here it is. I found it already.
Okay.
Let me see. Bring it up here. All right. So the question from last week: how do you feel about Caitlyn Jenner running for governor of California? And I'm about to bring it up here. All right. So we got did that drop? I thought it was higher than that last time we looked. 3,700 votes.
Well, that's great.
15% said I would vote for her, which I thought was higher the last time we looked, when we did our show last.
Mm-hmm.
I would not vote for her, 63%, undecided 5%, and 18% said they don't care. So that's interesting. I really think I think it was more in the other. I think it was I would vote versus I would not vote. I think that was in the lead the last time. I'm pretty sure. So I find it interesting that it kind of swapped around there. So
Yeah. Well, we only saw it like an hour after it was posted, so people have now had a week to kind of get in there and get their votes in.
yeah. So Brandon says I'm voting for CJ. And now originally I thought CJ meant the character from the video game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but of course that means Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah.
So my fault on that one. So yes, CJ, me too. If they're cooking early, I'm not sure what cooking early means. Jalen, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Julius, who I'm not gonna, I'll forget it.
Hey, I'm trying to, Jalen, Julissa Mendez Garcia. I don't know.
The 3 thumbs up for hello, I guess. We got a Russian response. Let me see what we get the old translator up here. See what we got.
We're getting fancy.
Let's see. And appearance 7. I don't know what that means, but okay. That's what the Russian comment means. I'm voting for Big Smoke or Tarnell. That's another Grand Theft Auto reference. So
Okay.
I'm voting for Chris. That's another Grand Theft Auto reference because
Is that your favorite video game?
It's Chris Fromage was in 2 video games, San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and Grand Theft Auto 5. So, yes, that's the one I play. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is the one I play the most on this channel. If that was that what you were asking?
Yeah, just like the one you play the most in general.
Yeah. So, Big Smoke is in the game. He's the character that starts out as being a friend, but turns out to be a betrayer, and you have to actually kill him off at the very end of the game. So that's who Big Smoke is. I find it funny that he would vote for Big Smoke. So, Bruce Jenner hates himself. Why would anyone vote for a self-loathing individual?
Why? Who said he hates himself?
Homeless. And
I don't think that's true. I think that
homeless and starving. That's what it says. Okay. I don't think so. I don't think so. No, I don't. She should lose the government running. Okay. The CJ from the video game says vote for me and Mary Carey for the win. Wrong election. Let's see. Not very many others here. Somebody I responded to one of these. Pinoy boy said asterisk him, and I said I agreed. I was just trying to be polite. So
okay.
And hello. So yep, that's it. So
All right.
I am surprised. I'm not surprised in the results. I'm surprised that it was such a great turnover, because usually the preliminary votes usually reflect what it's going to be long term. So I'm actually surprised that it
Interesting.
switched over so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually not surprised considering like what they said about Biden and stuff. So I was
What-
kind of expecting this turnout. But it's
Biden, what was that? You have to refresh me on that one. What's that?
just we asked how people felt about his first 100 days in office.
Our questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha. I thought you meant something about Caitlin's thing about Biden. I got you.
No, no, no. I mean, just like the trend with that, I expected a similar turnout with the question we asked last week.
Gotcha. Let me see. Let me go see if I can find that one real quick, since you brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, that was still pretty hot. Well, pretty high there. 4,400 votes. 70% excellent, or excellent, as
Mm-hmm.
I spelled it. Um, yeah, these comments are pretty much the same. I'm not going to go through those again. So, but yeah, that one stayed pretty consistent there. I'm actually still surprised on that one as well. So, what do
Yeah.
you? I mean, how do you feel about Biden
Oh, I
right
mean,
now?
I've been pretty vocal that I think he's a shell of a person, and he has we're dealing with someone who is in severe cognitive decline. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. As far as his policies, I feel like he's just kowtowing to his base and the left, and he likes using scare tactics to kind of scare people into submission and things like that. But no, that's just my opinion. Whatever. It's all good.
It's all good. Cool. All right. So I think it's kind of funny you say it's all good, but the as far as the question for this week, what do you want to say, ask our viewers?
We can. I don't. I mean, it's up to you. But I thought it was interesting that all of a sudden Ellen DeGeneres has announced that she is ending her 18-year run of the Ellen DeGeneres show. Um, Maybe we could ask something about that. Like, do you think she's saying that it's time for her to go in a different direction? But as you know, last summer there was a lot of controversy over how she treated her staff and how like managers were treating guests and things like that. Apparently, there was like claims of sexual abuse and like just being mistreated by staff. Or mistreating her staff. So, I mean, we could ask maybe a question about that. How do you feel about the end of the Ellen DeGeneres show? Like, happy, sad, don't care, something like that. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but that was kind of big news today that she announced it.
Okay. How do you feel about the end of the Ellen
Yeah,
DeGeneres?
this is her last season. It's gonna end in 2022. So, and I wonder who will fill her spot. I mean, that she was the daytime talk show after Oprah. She kind of occupied that niche, but I have a feeling that daytime talk show is that niche of a form of entertainment is on its way out because everybody has on demand stuff.
Hmm.
Nobody's watching that sort of stuff. So.
So how do you feel? What's your response?
I mean, to be honest with you, I always really liked the Ellen DeGeneres show. I mean, obviously, I didn't know about the abuse and stuff like that until it came out. Apparently, this was kind of like a well-known thing in Hollywood that Ellen was kind of like a piece of shit, even though I think what people had a problem with was that she plays like the nice person on TV. Like she's so generous and she gives lots of charities, but really she's like a conniving bitch and just a horribly mean person to the people in her orbit, which is not really who she is on TV. But I mean, I always enjoyed the show. She always had cool like kids that would have like these crazy talents, and she'd bring in interesting people to have short talk segments and comedians, actors. So I mean, I always liked it. I always thought it was entertaining.
Hmm.
What about you? Did you ever watch it?
No. I saw little clips here and there, so I never engaged in that. I was just on my thing, so I can't say positive or negative. I know that I always heard the conservatives calling her like names, transforming a name and saying something else. I'm not going to say anything derogatory about her because I don't know anything. But and it's I'm not. I don't know. I have anything positive or negative. I just don't know. So, but I do remember hearing about the allegations. But as far as the allegations go, I mean, was that? I mean, you can make claims about anything. Did she ever come back and say anything about it? Did she address that?
Yeah, she addressed it. It was really, really awkward in her opening monologue for this new season. It was really, really awkward for a number of reasons. Obviously, because she had to address what was going on. Number two, she had to try to make it kind of light and funny. And number three, there was no live audience. It was just like a bunch of screens because of COVID.
Hmm.
So the combination of those three was like really fucking weird. But I love watching like weird, awkward stuff. So I enjoyed it. But she basically just said that, a lot of the stuff she wasn't aware of, and then when it came to how she treated her staff and that she was like a bitch to them and like really rude to them, she basically just said that what did she say? She said something along the lines of like, there's a high expectation for me to be like this nice person, and I'm a human being and I have different moods, and I have, this is a lot of stress on me because this whole brand, it says the Ellen show, I have to make sure everything is perfect and goes well because it's my name brand. So she's like, you have to forgive me for, being stressed and maybe taking it out on people I shouldn't. Like, she just made a bunch of like excuses. But I have a feeling it was more than just her being like short with people. I have a feeling she was like a total cunt. But and also that there was like nothing she was involved in directly, but under her, like in her show, there were people who were like sexually harassing or like abusing like interns. Like, it was not good. So
Yeah, the I've worked if what those are if those all those allegations are true. I always say, you got to hear both sides of any story
sure.
because I don't like I always hate when somebody says one thing and then what happens on someone else comes over and says something completely different. You don't listen to the other side. You just listen to the first person and say, "Oh, they must be right because they're making these allegations." That really makes me angry. So I always want to listen to if there's more than one side to it. I want to listen to as many sides as possible. If there's only
Mhm.
two sides, three sides, four, how many different
Right.
points of view? I want to hear every point of view before I make any kind of a decision. So I don't know. All I know is I can give you an example of what I'm going, what I had to go through when I was teaching. Occasionally, I get a student that would go to the dean, the humanities department, which I taught out of, and they'd say, "Well, I didn't get this right. I didn't get this, or something didn't happen in the class, or something." And so what the dean of the humanities would do is say, "Oh, really? Well, we'll take care of that." And then they'd say that the student was allowed to do something that they weren't normally be allowed to do during class.
Mm.
And then I'd come to them and say, "Hey, wait a minute, you didn't come to get my point of view first to see what's going on."
Right. Just theirs.
Yes, and so I've had that happen to me. One example, and I'm not gonna name I'm not gonna name anybody at all, of course. One of the students, there was each my all the most of the classes were 16 weeks long. One of the students missed the first 5 weeks, so there's no way you're gonna pass the course at that point.
Hmm.
And that's what, almost one third of the entire semester.
Right.
So he went to the dean and said he told the dean that he'd been attending the classes, which wasn't true, and so the dean forced him into my class. And the mother of the student, which I always find kind of strange because these are adults. They're not children. They're adults.
Kids. Right. Yeah.
The mother came and actually got upset and said that her son needed to be in the class. I went to the dean. I said, "Look, he hadn't been in the class the entire time, and the fact that you forced him in, he didn't. The first time he attended was the sixth class, so he missed the first five." And then he said, "Oh, really? Okay." And he got kind of quiet and realized he had made a mistake because he didn't come to see me about it first. So, and that's getting back to the Ellen DeGeneres thing. I don't know. I'm not going to make any judgment on anything, but I have been in bad work environments where people are assholes and dicks and things like that. So,
Sure. Yeah. But I think
and
this was like abusive. Like, I definitely remember reading something about like sexual harassment. I don't know if I want to use the word abuse, but I remember hearing like there was sexual harassment going on. Like, I don't know if it was, I think some of the managers or maybe Ellen knew about it and let it slide or something. I don't think Ellen herself was sexually harassing people, but I think some of her staff was like harassing either other staff members or guests or something. It was just fucking not good shit. So.
the what do you how did you want to phrase the question, the answers for the questions? I know you said something. How do you feel? How did you want to give the responses?
You could say like good, I want the show to be over. Like sad, I enjoyed the program. Uh like well, like I guess I don't care. I don't know, maybe just those three, or yeah, something along those lines.
I want the show to be over. Okay, I'll put exclamation
Because I
point.
mean, it's kind of an iconic program. Like I would say it's pretty much like right behind the Oprah show, which was on for 25 years. This was on for 18. So I mean, this is like the end of an era, sort of a thing, when it
What
comes
was
to
the
daytime TV.
Gotcha. Wait, hold, I don't mean to interrupt you. We'll get back to that. What was the
Yeah.
second response? Sad.
Um,
What was
Good, bad. I will miss watching the show, or I enjoyed the show.
enjoyed watching the show? Okay.
I'm kind of sad it's over. Like I enjoyed it, even if Ellen is a demon from hell. I still enjoyed it.
So you said first you said sad, then you said bad. I think sad would sound better. So
Yeah, I think sad is good.
okay. I don't care. I don't own a TV. There we go. All right. It looks good. Ready to post it? Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. All right, cool. So we'll go back and check in on that. So talking about so what you're saying you're sad that the show is gone. So you talked about the Oprah show. Did you watch that?
I've seen like episodes and I've seen clips from it, but I didn't watch it as much as I did Ellen, because Oprah was kind of before social media, whereas like with Ellen, I would often see it, on Instagram. There'd be like a 5-minute clip or maybe a 30-second clip, or you know what I mean. So I was able to kind of keep tabs on the show for the last decade. You'd see someone dancing or whatever, it memes or whatnot. So I'm definitely much more familiar with Ellen DeGeneres' show than the Oprah show. So
Was there anything spectacular that's something that it came from the show that would be recognizable that I would know? I mean, something uh, that was really publicized, or just something that became I don't know.
no, there was no like iconic moment that
I'm looking for,
like
yeah.
with Oprah, you could say like, oh, Tom Cruise jumping on the couch, saying that he was like in love with Katie Holmes or whatever. That was kind of like a what the fuck moment. I don't know. No, Ellen just had. I mean, she always had like a really what do you call it? A-list guests coming on the show all the time. She was really good friends with Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston, and a lot of actors, a lot of like self-help people would go on there. She would have she'd give to a lot of charities. She'd help people out. She did like the 12 Days of Christmas, where people would get these like insane gifts, and of course they would be in people who were like totally impoverished, and then they'd get like a new house, and I mean that stuff's like heartwarming and cool to see. So with
I,
so much bullshit going on in the world, it is nice to see, people getting gifts and, people giving to charities and stuff. I just didn't realize that person was a demon from hell. So it kind of ruined it. But I mean, it was, I think it was a great program.
so giving impoverished people a house. I'd like to see a follow up on that. I'd like to see if the house is still intact a year later. If you're giving a house to a poor person,
Well, I think it's
no
people who
offense.
had like fallen on hard times, like they were doing well and then the business tanked, or their mom got cancer and they had to like quit the job, or they didn't have enough to pay medical bills. Like it was always it wasn't someone who was like a piece of shit off the street. It was usually someone who had fallen on hard times, and, like their kid got sick and they had to stay home and they couldn't work because they had to take care of the kid. And then Ellen gave them like 20 grand, something like that.
No, I guess 3 years ago when I was about to declare bankruptcy, I could have used the 20 grand, but I guess it's a
Yeah.
little too late for that now. So the
Yeah.
that's interesting. I mean, it's pretty. I was just I didn't know if there was any scumbags out there, people like it's like I hate to use the word scumbag, but maybe some. So if you try to give obviously if you try to give a home to a homeless person, a person that's never owned a home, you can pretty much guarantee the house is not going to be in good shape within a couple of years. So
Well, I mean,
and,
this person was also like TV appropriate. It's not like they took a bum off the street. Like these people were always wearing nice clothes, and you know what I mean? They
Mhm.
they looked presentable, so it wasn't like they were homeless and living out of their car. Usually it was just the fact that they were, falling on hard times, had a sick kid, sick parent, quit their job to do something noble, or whatever the case may be. It was always something. There was always like a sob story, is what I'm saying. It was never just like someone, and it was never like, oh, I got addicted to heroin, give me a house. Like that was never it's like they were doing something good and they got fucked, and Ellen was helping them out.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So how about so you talked about the abusive nature or abusive what the claims that were made against her. Are you familiar with that kind of brings up a story that something that happened about that came out about 3 years ago. Do you know who John Chris Falusi is?
No.
Do you remember are you familiar with the TV show Ren and Stimpy?
I am, yes.
Okay. Did you hear about the controversy that came out about 3 years ago? John Chris Falusi, he goes by John K.
Wait,
Uh,
not John Belushi. Wait, who's the Italian guy?
um, I don't know. John.
Belushi. I was thinking John
Oh,
Belushi. That's not
oh,
who.
John Belushi. Yeah, he was dead back in 1980. So yeah, that was a little too long ago.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, the wrong John. The
Okay.
no John Chris Falusi. And his name is kind of hard for people to pronounce. So, but I am pronouncing it correctly. He because of that, a lot of he just tells people to call him John K. He's been known as John K. So,
Okay.
John K. Was a he created the Ren and Stimpy show, and he's been I admire the guy. I admire him. That's actually kind of controversial. So anyone who's listening to this he has developed a major amount of hate over the past 3 years.
Mm.
And I still consider him. I still admire things that he's done. Not some of the things that he's admitted to recently, though. So I have a major problem with some of the things he has done. That doesn't mean I still don't admire some of the things he's done in the past.
Sure.
So the some of the things he's done one of the things he's credited with is in the early 90s, and I can attest to this because I'm not a huge cartoon fan anymore, but back in the 70s and into the 80s, I liked to watch cartoons, and the cartoons during the 80s were pretty much all garbage, all really garbage, utter
Okay.
garbage. Most of them were out to sell toys to little kids, and they were also repetitive. So the idea was cartoons were highly repetitive, so they saw the same thing over and over again. The kids would watch it over again, and that's what they wanted. He took that, and the Simpsons came out. The initial Simpsons episode. Well, the Simpsons came out actually during like 1987,
Oh, okay.
technically. What I mean by that is the Tracy Ullman shows where they originally came out. So they were like kind of like the very first to start a trend of sorts, and then eventually they became their own show in '89. They had their first special, and then the actual series began in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of helped lay the groundwork, and he also was instrumental in changing the way cartoons were perceived. And his idea was he also hated the way the cartoons were made during the 80s. They basically complete garbage. Like I said, I'm not a big cartoon fan anymore, but back in the day I was. So
You're
I liked like the old I really do like I think that the cartoons from like say the 40s and into the 50s were really done well. That's probably one of the best eras for cartoons.
okay.
Um, Tex Avery comes to mind. Hanna-Barbera when they were before they went off on their own, when they were still making the Tom and Jerry cartoons for MGM. The older cartoons were very excellently produced. Disney made a lot of I'm not really into Disney cartoons, but I can say that they were very well produced.
Okay.
During the 60s, they started to become very poorly produced, and then during the 70s and 80s, that's when the cartoons, and unfortunately, it was Hanna-Barbera that really made them utter almost complete garbage. So they were just dishing them out really fast. I even heard one person refer to them as being like almost like a what do you call it? Like a production line. Like they're just producing them as fast as they possibly could, and you could
Right.
see
Just pumping them out.
they were just really, that's how bad they were. They're just so badly put out. Anyway, so he changed that. Came out with Ren and Stimpy. Did you say you were familiar with? I think you did say you were familiar
Yes,
with.
I watched Ren and Stimpy. I watched Doug, and I watched Rugrats. Like that was my generation. That's what I grew up on. Not, I wasn't a big fan of Ren and Stimpy because I thought it was like kind of gross for some reason. But I watched like the Smurfs and stuff. But Rugrats and Doug were things I watched every day, I think, every weeknight at least.
Okay, yes, interesting that you brought that up. Those three shows, not the Smurfs, of course, but those three other shows were the three shows that were basically the Nickelodeon's first attempt at letting the creators produce their own cartoons, which is pretty commonplace nowadays. But he was instrumental in doing that, allowing having the creators create their own shows, and
As opposed to
as opposed to being highly regulated by corporations.
okay.
So that's why it's that, and like The Simpsons was also for the most part, Matt Groening, and also Sam Simon, and who's the other one? The other guy. There was three of them that actually created the whole show. And the characters were created by
Mm,
Matt Groening, of
okay.
course. But there were three basic creators that developed the show, I should say. So, and these, it was that kind of idea that the shows were going their own way, and then eventually came Beavis and Butthead, which I'm sure you're familiar with,
Yeah,
and
never watched, but yeah, I'm familiar with.
then the shows just going, then Family Guy, and then shows, now everyone, that's, like I said, it's a very common thing, but back in the 80s it was not. So and he's considered to be by a lot to be instrumental in helping
Mm,
that, getting the creators back in control, and he
right.
did a very excellent job. I thought he was very creative. So he was eventually kicked out of the show. Now I would like to mention this. I got into radio in 92. I made
Okay.
a list. I never really cared about interviewing people, but I made a list. I said, if I ever got a chance to interview people, I've made a list of people, and his was at the top of my list of people I wanted to interview. So, because I
Okay.
admired him that much. And he wouldn't, nowadays with I told you there was a controversy. So nowadays there wouldn't be, I don't think he would interview people, would be allowed to be interviewed by anybody. So that's how bad the controversy is I'm leading up to. Um, in the 2017, I think it was, or 2018, I think it was. Yeah, 3 years ago. Two women came forward, and I have a problem with parts of what's going on here. I can bring up the original article because I was able to
Okay.
find it when we were talking. Um, I'll give their names: Robin Bird and Katie Rice. They were in their 30s when they came forward. It was part of the Me Too movement. So you can probably guess where this is heading toward. Um, the Robin Bird was the primary person that made these allegations that John Kay was with her in a relationship.
Okay.
And at the time they were in the relationship, she was only 16 years old.
Oh, and he was.
He was about 40. So,
Oh.
so the
Uh,
a lot of people at that point, especially because of the Me Too movement, became
yeah.
very angry at him. Now, the I going back on our conversation from a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, we talked about internships in businesses, and I talked about how an intern at one of the stations I used to work at eventually got married to one of the upper managers, and I thought that was wrong.
Yeah.
Uh, and what was your opinion? Because I thought you said you didn't really seem to have a problem with it, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't
Well, you
want to put.
said an intern. Yeah. I mean, it's inappropriate, but as long as everyone is an adult, I mean, then I'm cool with it. It's not a good idea, but and it on anybody's end in terms of like, you might get accused of this. She might, try to take advantage of you. Whatever the case may be, it's not a good idea, but it's not ethically and morally wrong. Unless you're like this situation where the girl was 16 and he was like 40 or something.
Well, and also this goes back to what I was saying about internships. She was actually interning at the time. So this violates my whole thing about internships. So this does make me a little upset that he did this. So he
Yeah,
was,
not right.
yeah, it's not right. And the age that the other woman, Katie Rice, she also came forward. She didn't have any sexual contact with him at all. She
Okay.
came forward, and she said that John had tried to be sexual with her, did some things that were inappropriate with her, but there was never any physical contact. She was actually 19 years old, so she's at the legal age.
Yes.
So I don't really, I mean, yeah, maybe he was doing things that were inappropriate. If she told him to stop, then I would think, okay, he's wrong at that point. But if she didn't say to stop, then and she's 19, then I don't really feel any sympathy for her at that point. She has to say stop. You can't. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a woman, so I can't say if a guy, from a guy's perspective, I don't. If a woman says stop, I back off. I'm not aggressive at
Well,
all.
I'm like she felt like was she touched against her will or
No, the 19-year-old, no, not at all. There was no physical contact whatsoever. It
okay.
was there was a lot of sexual talk though made towards her.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I got the 16-year-old thing in the 1950s.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm sorry. We're on. Katie Rice was the 19-year-old. Her claim was that there was a lot of sexual talk made toward her that was.
Oh, okay. So it was like just verbal, inappropriate, like verbal
Yes, exactly.
passes made. Okay.
Robin Bird, who was the 16-year-old, that's the one who he had a relationship with.
Ah,
So
right. Well, I mean, it's not, again, not a good idea. That you're being kind of frisky with a coworker, even just like verbally, always a bad idea. But yeah, I mean, at that point, if he's not threatening her, your job or anything, you don't feel like your job is in jeopardy, then yeah, you should say something or contact it if there's a higher up or something like that you can have mediate, or if you feel really uncomfortable, like you need to say something, obviously.
well, John Kay owned the company. It was his business. It was his company.
Oh,
So
right,
there's
okay.
no one to go any higher than him at that
Yeah,
point.
well, again, that's a problem, but I mean, yeah, you are an adult, but you maybe, I mean, again, even if it's not explicitly said that you're gonna lose your job, you probably feel that way if you're like telling the boss to go fuck himself.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. There wasn't, and also I do believe that she was an intern as well. So that does cross the line there. So I do agree with the idea that he was crossing the line at that point, because you know how I
Right.
feel about internships. So anyway, this is the article. I believe this is the original article. It was on BuzzFeed. And BuzzFeed, whenever I see BuzzFeed or I see Fox News, I automatically go, okay, well, there's going to be a slant on this automatically.
Sure, of course.
So I
But
got
you
to.
can read every article like that. Be like, this is probably biased, but let's see what it says.
Right. So there's a picture of him and what's her name again? Robin Bird. That's her.
The
That you can see
16-year-old.
the 16-year-old. Yeah, you can see obviously how young she is there. But
Yeah, she looks like a baby.
yeah, and well, I think in that picture she might have actually been younger at that time. So, I don't but I think that she didn't become the girlfriend until she was 16. So he had been talking to her for like a couple of years at that
Oh
point.
God.
So yeah, and I agree. It's not, and he came from, unlike the Ellen DeGeneres thing. From what you said, it didn't sound like she gave much of a comeback or explanation as to with the allegations against her. Is that right?
I think she just said she didn't realize like how toxic the culture had been,
Right.
and that she was going to reassess everything. I think, and it wasn't just that it was like sexual or that she was a bitch. It was also like when the show, I guess, was kind of paused because of the pandemic. People were just like told not to come in, and no one really communicated with them if they even had a job anymore. Like she was just shitty to her staff.
Mhm.
And people were calling, being like, "Am I fired? Am I furloughed?" And like there was just like no communication. Like there were several different aspects of like the work culture that were bad, whether it be sexual, whether it be like she was a bitch, whether it was she treated people like shit, whether they felt like their job was in jeopardy because no one was communicating with them, and like she didn't pay them when they had to stop coming in because there was COVID and stuff. But the show has plenty of money to, you know, give people at least like not a severance package, but maybe continue paying them, if not at their full salary. It's something. But all these people like just didn't have jobs and didn't know if they were unemployed and weren't getting paid. Like that's really shitty. So
Right. Right. Well, yeah. Well, I'm just. Oh, sorry. I basically what I was just leading up to is the fact that the unlike that situation, or maybe in some ways similar, there are some similarities to it. John Kay came out and actually publicly apologized for
uh,
what happened. So, and of course, apology doesn't really matter or anything, but he should actually, in this case, I do think he should have apologized for
yeah.
what he did. So it is different in this case. I'm not, that doesn't excuse what he did, obviously, but um, the thing is, I watched. There's an interview with Robin Bird. I watched that recently. So, with I don't know how long ago it was, but I have watched it somewhat recently. And she's the one that was the 16-year-old. And from what I gathered, they're leaving some things out that I think they're trying to make John Kay, and I'm not excusing anything he did, but at the same
Okay.
time, they're trying to make it seem like she's a complete and utter victim when there's some gray areas in this. So,
Okay.
um, she was 16, but that's when the relationship began. She actually continued dating him. It was 1994. So she said she was with him until like 2002, which means she was like 24 or so, roughly.
Well,
Until,
I mean, again, like, I mean, you've heard of Stockholm syndrome. I don't know if it was the same sort of thing where it's like when you get with someone and you're so young, you're, 16 years old, and you have a relationship with someone. I mean, the influence that they have over you as like a grown ass person is immense because they can tell you, you're never going to be anything without me. Like, I made you, I'm the only person that'll love you. And as a grown person, you could tell them to fuck off. But as like a teenager, like, you don't know any better.
okay.
So
Okay. That's understandable. The,
and then you kind of keep those thoughts with you for your late adolescence and early 20s, and then finally you realize, like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this guy like hijacked my youth. Like, what the fuck?
okay. That's kind of like what she was at. She's, is like when Indian, and I don't want to play the interview because I'm not sure if it's copyrighted right now. So,
Sure.
otherwise I'd probably play parts of it for you. But that's kind of like the attitude that she was giving in the interview, like you were saying there, like she lost something there.
Yeah, he like stole her innocence.
And but there you were making some assumptions there that he was being more controlling and saying those things though. So I don't know if it was actually true.
No, I didn't say I knew. I'm just offering a possibility of what may have happened and why she stayed in it as an adult.
Right,
You know?
right.
Yeah. I've never even heard of this guy before, so no, I didn't know anything about it, but I just know that if you're getting with a young girl that's not even 18 years old, like, you're like, something's wrong with you and you're probably trying to manipulate people, clearly. He probably told her, like, "Oh, you're so mature for your age." That's a big thing that predators say. "Oh, you're so mature for your age," and then they feel like, "Oh, I'm special," sort of a thing. But yeah, it's bad. And you can stay in a relationship like that that's abusive for a long time. Did she say that it was abusive, like,
No,
in any
not at
way?
all. In fact, it sounded like it was completely consensual. From what I gathered, it just felt that she felt like she was that because of her age, that, like you said, something about like the idea that her innocence was taken from her because of her age.
Yeah, it's not like it wasn't like he was abusing her physically, right, or anything.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that, but even though the
Okay.
article clearly says underage sexual abuse in the title.
Well, it's sexual abuse because she was a minor. For
Right. Yeah. So, but I don't think it was, I don't think there was actually, I don't think he was abusive toward her. I think, from what I understand, I think he was actually, I think there was an actual relationship there. I think what happened was eventually like you said, she got older. She realized it was her, like you said, this was preying upon her innocent, young, her
Yeah,
young. Um, and in the interview, she almost felt like a jilted lover. She almost felt like she had been in. She was just so angry that she wanted to
sure.
expose him. And so, like I said, there's some gray area in there, and I'm not saying it's right, but at the same time, she was consensual even into her early adult years with this. So I don't have a hard time saying okay, it's 100% she's a victim. I think that she is a victim, but not 100%. Because she did stay with him for quite a time, quite a few years though. That's like how many years? 8 years at least. It's I don't know. I can't say because I'm not a woman, so I can't say from a woman's perspective it's how that would be. But how do you feel about that part of it?
Was she a victim the whole time? I mean, I don't know really the ins and outs of their relationship and what went down, but I do know that, like, he was probably grooming her, like, you said, for a few years before they were actually in an open relationship or like a public relationship. But she probably had daddy issues. Like, people like that John K guy, they don't prey over people that have good families. Like, I would never have been a victim because my dad would have been like, "What the fuck are you doing?" My dad was around, my mom was around. But I bet if you look at her history, she probably didn't have a family that paid attention to her. Maybe dad was out of the picture. This guy steps in, gives her all this attention, kind of steals her innocence. She probably did a lot of things younger than she would have done had she just lived like a normal teenager. So I can see why she feels like he took something from her. Was she a victim the whole time? I mean, yeah, of course at 18 we have to cut it off and say you're an adult now, but nevertheless, he was grooming her for years. And it's not like you're going to wake up on your 18th birthday and realize that, "Oh, I'm being taken advantage of." Like, you're still a young person, you're still learning, you're still growing, and if this is the guy that kind of like is your everything, kind of your father figure, your boyfriend, your confidant, your lover. Like she probably felt like he was her everything. That I could see that she was kind of victimized throughout the entire relationship, even though it wasn't illegal.
Right. Okay.
Towards the end, after she was 18. I mean,
Right, right. Okay. The other things now, as I said, if you type his name into the internet, you'll see there's a lot of people that just hate this guy now. I mean,
yeah.
he's loathed now. Before this article came out, there were the only videos you could find were basically him just talking about how he created Ren and Stimpy and other projects he had. There's interviews. You can find those. Those are also there. But there's a clear crossover point. And now the one thing I will say I wanted to add to this is he creates a lot of sexy women cartoon characters.
Hmm.
I don't see anything wrong with that whatsoever. And
No.
a lot of these people when I'm not going to bring up any of these videos, but a lot of these people will say, look what he did to these children, and he was also drawing these lewd women, and it's like these sexy women. It's like, well, yeah, but there's no correlation directly between that. I mean, he didn't draw the women naked. Number one, they were all cartoon characters that were actually in cartoons. They were all wearing clothing. So, he even never even drew nipples on the women's breasts. So it's like they were very very sexy and very shapely, but they're trying to say, look at this. It's like, I feel like a bunch like these people are just looking for reasons to hate him even more,
Hmm.
and I think that's going a little overboard. Yeah, I agree. I can understand you not liking the guy, but then you go, it's almost like at that point it feels like a bunch of church going ninnies who go around saying we can't stand looking at sexy women, and it's like, yeah, it's like when the church would say you can't have we don't want to see sexy women, they need to be properly dressed and everything. It's like, well, yeah, but this has nothing to do with the sexual grooming with a young girl there. So I mean, and the other thing that was also talked about was the fact that when he was creating the cartoon, since he was the head of the company, the
Yeah.
company was called Spumco. He was also there's more to this, but he was also very aggressive and very rude to people. And I, I don't know. There's also people that say he was actually pretty easy to get along with. So, and going along with the idea that they were showing these people that hate him so much, they'll say, look, not only did he make these was he with this young girl, but he was also rude to his employees. I'm like, oh, okay, but that has nothing to do
Just
with
piling on. Yeah.
yeah. They're trying to find as much as they can to hate about the guy, and so yeah, the reason I'm saying bringing this up is I think that sometimes some of the arguments may be a little weak in a sense because it was consensual, the relationship with the young woman, the young girl.
Hmm.
So like I said, some gray area there,
Yeah.
and so they're trying to cover the gray area by saying by bringing these other things by saying, look, he has this and this, yeah, like you said, piling on. So and I'm not I don't know if he was an asshole to work with or not. Maybe he was. I mean, people call me an asshole, so I don't know. I call other people I worked with assholes. I mean, it just depends on who you work with. Who knows? Um, but it's nothing to do directly with that. I think, and I think it's just kind of silly to just pile things on like that. Focus on what's there, and then you can you'll have a good enough story. But to keep on piling things on, trying to find things just to hate on them, just that's a different story. That's another element of it, and it shouldn't be. I don't think the two should be mixed together, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I think each incident or situation should be looked at itself independently. But I mean, it is suspect if like he does this and he does that, and then people just kind of go, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. Like this guy's probably not a good character. So, I mean, I do that with people in my personal life. Like if someone has like one flaw, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll still be your friend if like you're whatever. Let's just say I'm maybe you're impatient, whatever. Okay, but if you're impatient and you're rude and you're always late and you flake out, like I don't want you in my life. You know what I mean? So, but so I think that's kind of what it is. Is that's just kind of what people do is they go, well, this guy's it's clearly not a good character. He's doing a lot of bad things. But also I kind of agree with you. Like each situation should kind of be judged separately from every other.
And then the other thing I wanted to talk about with the Robin Bird, that was the 16-year-old.
Right.
The interview that I saw, there was a contradiction of sorts in her interview, and like I said, I can't play it, so you're just going to trust me to hopefully I'm
Sure.
quoting it correctly. But basically, what I remember in the interview, she said that he would go around bragging about being with a 16-year-old girl to his coworkers, and the coworkers would actually say, "Oh, that's a good," like they would say, "Oh, that's cool." Like they were not really cool, but like they had no problems with it, I should say.
Sure. Sure.
They thought it was actually okay. Then in the same interview, she said that they showed pictures of him and her together. He would show pictures of him and her together, and then those same people would say, "Oh, you shouldn't be with a 16-year-old girl." So I don't know, maybe I missed something in the interview. I hope I'm not misquoting it, but it's almost like she's contradicting herself in the same interview. The first part, she says that they were completely accepting of it, but when he showed them the pictures, then they weren't accepting of it, which doesn't seem to make any sense. Um, so it seems like maybe she's trying to narrate a story or create a narrative that shows that whatever it is, he was always bad in one way, and
Yeah.
so
Or I mean, did he like? Was it different people that he showed pictures to and then told
well,
to?
in the interview, the way she said it was implied it was the same place, Spumco, the place
Same
that they did that,
group of
same group
people.
of people.
Okay.
So it's like basically no. However, she told the story, he was always a bad person,
It was just
and
kind of inconsistent.
yeah, it was being because basically at first they were all like, oh well, they had no problems with it, but then when they showed the pictures, they was like, oh well, now then she said, oh now they were like that. She acted like she had been like they were now saying it's oh now you shouldn't be doing that with her. And it's like I don't know. It seemed like how she was relating, how she was being interviewed. She just wanted to make it so that she was the victim, 100% victim, and he was completely. However, it was came across with the other employees there. She could make it say that they were for or against it, and that would still make her 100% the victim. No, however she
Yeah.
created the narrative. And like I said, I do think there's some gray area there, and I don't think what he did was right. And I'm not trying to endorse anything that he did,
Sure. Sure.
but I in these videos that are on YouTube are just I've watched a few of them and they just I just sit there and I'm like I don't really care what they say. They're entitled to their opinion. I, they really despise this guy. If you go on there, I'm not going to bring any of them up, but if you have a chance, you can bring them
Oh,
up
I
and
can only
see.
imagine. Yeah, especially. I mean, when you're dating minors and stuff, you're gonna get a lot of heat for, I mean, you're like a child molester. Like it's frowned upon. So I get why people hate him.
There's a movie that came out called The Ren and Stimpy. It's called Happy Happy Joy Joy, The Ren and Stimpy Story. It's a, a story. This is kind of interesting. It came out. I have not watched it yet. I've seen the preview for it. I've actually seen. Well, I've seen a few segments of it, maybe about 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. But it's about a regular full length movie documentary about the creation of the show. What's interesting about it is it came out like they were according to the people who directed it and wrote it and produced it, they were finished with it, and 3 days later or so, or a few days later, this story broke about on BuzzFeed. So
Okay.
they had to go in and re-edit the whole thing to include this in there, because obviously you can't just have a documentary about a TV show and not include this, because this was so big at the time. It was such a big story. So, and that's when they were able to bring John Kay in, and they actually interviewed him, and that's what he started to say. He apologized for what he had done, and he felt bad. And I'm not trying to make him sound like a good person. I'm really not. I
No,
mean, but so I just want to emphasize that, because I'm sure there might be someone watching saying, "What I don't want them to say
what the
that."
hell? Yeah. No,
So
I get it. I understand your logic. You're just trying to make sure everything is fair.
yeah. So, and I would recommend watching some of these. Anybody out there that wants to see this, watching this to make your own judgment, of course. But yeah, the videos are out there. Either they completely ignore this because the story hadn't been, the two young women had not. Well, they're not young now. They're like about 40 now, but
Sure.
they had not come out. They had not come out yet. So if you're watching older videos, it's John Kay is not going to be. There's not going to be any negative light at all. There might be some here and there. And there might be in anything after this will be very negative, obviously. There's also on the Howard Stern show.
Hmm.
You listened you watched or listened to and watched, because it was also on TV, the Howard Stern show during the 90s.
Yeah, on E. Yeah, I watched it.
Okay, do you remember Billy West?
No, I don't, to be honest with you.
Billy West is kind of a well-known voice actor. He got his start early on the Howard Stern show. I'm not saying he's that's where I think that's one of his. He was definitely one of his earliest jobs was doing
Okay.
that. So he became pretty popular. He was on when it came to Ren and Stimpy, he did the voice of Stimpy the cat. So and on the Howard Stern show, he would do lots of voices. He's really talented. He's pretty funny. So if you ever want to hear good laugh, he would come on and do like one of the things I really loved was his version of Marge Schott. Do you know who Marge Schott was?
No, I don't know who that is at all.
She was owner of I think the Cincinnati Reds, the baseball team, and
Okay.
she was extremely racist. And he would come on and do this voice of her saying using the N word over and over and over, and it was just so hilarious to hear it. For doing this impression of her. Say I'm not gonna I don't want to get anyone upset with me, so but I'm not gonna play it or do it or say the word out loud, but if you listen to it, type in Marge Shot sometime in Billy West, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. It's extremely funny. I'm sure a lot of people, if they did it today, they heard today brand new, they'd be all pissed off because
They'd
the N
be
word,
canceled for that, I imagine.
very much so. The anyway, there was a segment on the Howard Stern show. What happened was uh, when Ren and Stimpy was being produced after the first season, even though Spumco was his own company, Nickelodeon owned the rights to Ren and Stimpy. So what happened was after the first season, there were some problems with production. I believe I've heard several times that he was late with the shows, so they fired John Kay, and what that meant was Spumco was pulled out from producing
Uh-huh.
the Stimpy show. However, and Billy West did the voice of Stimpy, so he worked for John Kay. What happened though was uh, they hired Nickelodeon created another cartoon production company of their own, and they hired Billy West to work for them. And so what Howard Stern did, and this is it's pretty famous or infamous. He
Okay.
he brought John Kay onto his show so that
Oh,
he and Billy West could confront each other. And it's
oh
one of
wow.
the
Okay.
it's after this is after John Kay had been fired from doing the Ren and Stimpy show, and it is one of the most it's very dark. It is one of the most dark. It was on the E show as well, so you can see it. It's
I'll have to go check that out.
very cold. The two of them are, they're very much, you can tell there's a lot of tension in the room when it happens. And when it happened, Billy West eventually left the show. A lot of people have speculated that he left the show because of that incident. He said, "No, it's not. I don't know. Billy West seems like a nice guy. I have nothing against him. So, and I always think he's very talented as well.
Right.
He claims that he says that he left because of payments. He wasn't getting what he felt was fair payment for the show, so he just left, based on that. So that's most likely what it is. But a lot of people apparently have stated that because of that incident, that's why he left the show. It does seem like it might be, though. I mean, it's because
Sure.
he was very much in a corner when that happened, and you could tell he was very polite. He did not get angry at all, and John
Okay.
Kay was immensely angry, but didn't
Didn't
really say
show it.
didn't actually, you could tell he was angry, but he didn't actually show it. Yeah, exactly. So but yeah, that's another situation that is a good something to look into. So
I'll check it out. I always love seeing uncomfortable. Like I said, I always love watching awkward and uncomfortable situations unfold.
the and yeah the if you're if you watch the Howard Stern show, you'll probably remember Billy West if you see it. Do
Okay.
you remember a character they had? You remember Jack? You know who Jackie Martling is, right?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? You were a little muffled.
Jackie Martling. Do you know who Jackie
No,
is?
no.
Really? Oh, wow.
Maybe,
Okay.
again, like I would watch it when I was like really young, like probably too young to watch it. Like I was probably watching it at night by myself when I was like 12 or 13. I would listen to Howard every morning, but with my dad. But I mean, all I really remember was Robin, Howard, Beetlejuice, and like all the crazy porn stars they'd have on and stuff, and Artie, obviously. So
Okay. Hold on a second. Here it is. I'm gonna. This is I'll play one of Jackie Mart. Here's Jackie Martling, so you can get an idea. I don't think I'm not worried about it. Credit. This is Jackie Martling. Jackie was on the show from mid 80s till about 97 or so. So he was when it comes to the Howard Stern show, he's my favorite part of the Howard Stern show. So there's nothing more. I liked him so much that I actually went and saw him on stage when he was performing locally in the DC area one time. So
Nice.
Or less fortunate than him. That's why he let.
Can you hear that? Okay.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
At these people.
Okay. Well, what they would do. This was also one of the funniest segments of the show. Is Fred Norris? You know who Fred Norris is, right?
No.
Okay. Fred Norris was the was with one of the people that one of the writers of the show. He had been with Howard since the very beginning. So
Yeah.
Fred was usually the one that played the sound effects as well. So what they did was they had all these pre-recorded laughters of Jackie laughing. What they would do is they'd play through the news, and they would have some serious, really serious, sad story. And what they would do is while they were doing the story, while Robin was reading the news,
Yeah.
they would have these tapes of Jackie laughing, like, and
Oh,
people,
in the background. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
and they thought people actually thought it was him actually laughing. So. Oh, this segment has Gilbert Gottfried in it as well.
Okay.
So
Unless anyone thinks that's real, Freddie's playing.
hold on, let me go here.
Oh.
All right, he's okay now.
All right, can I go on?
Yeah.
Right now. Because
So
tomorrow. Well, here, get ready. A suicide bomber took on one of those Israeli buses yesterday, blew it up. 4 people were killed, including a Connecticut teacher who felt that winning this sabbatical to Israel was one of the luckiest things that had ever happened.
Okay, Gilbert Gottfried's laughing in the foreground.
Right,
but
right.
You can hear the Jackie laugh in the background, and that's not Jackie actually laughing at the news. So that's the recording of Jackie laughing in the background.
Right. Like, what the hell?
what's wrong with you, man? Jackie, Jackie's like. No, unless anyone thinks that's real, Freddie's
No,
playing.
Gilbert is real.
Gilbert's the only real that Freddie's playing Jackie's laughing in the background.
Several other Americans were injured.
Yes.
Israeli officials and Palestinian officials have said that they will continue to seek peace in the Middle East. This bombing was the responsibility of the Islamic group Hamas, which is opposed to those peace talks.
Jackie's always happy when others are less fortunate than him. That's why he laughs at these people. You ever hear sounds like that come out of another human being? Sick.
It's like the island of lost souls.
Right. Something living inside of him.
Julia Sweeney, the woman who was Pat on Saturday Night Live.
Funny lady.
Funny. She's battling cancer. Oh,
Okay, that was.
Jackie.
You know Jackie.
The laugh in the background when he laughs when they announced that she has cancer.
Right. No, that's great. And it's so funny, like, that they're talking about Hamas and, like, suicide bombs and rockets, because, like, that's what's going on now.
Uh-huh. I would be I remember I was at the time I was going to school, so I was working as a courier in my car delivering packages in the area, and I would actually park my car, and when the news was on I would sit there waiting in my car just listening to the news, and I know I had to deliver the package, but I just wanted to continue listening to this because these segments were so funny at the time.
They were great. I loved listening to Howard, especially as a kid. It was funny.
So but a lot of people have told Jackie that they also remember the fake laughing. They always loved that part. So
It's awesome.
I'm going to bring up the question. I guess you want to wrap everything up here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, let me bring up our question. Where did I put that? Oh, I think it's right here. Okay. Okay, here's the question. I'm going to hit the refresh, see what we got.
Alrighty. Ooh, wow.
Got 2 comments. How do you feel about the end of the Ellen DeGeneres show? 80% good. I want it to be over. Wow, it's pretty high. It's 92 votes and 80%
Yeah.
of you have 2
Okay.
votes.
The people have spoken.
So for now, I mean, it might change like the other one. It may
That's
become
true. That's true.
to give it more time. Only 7% said they actually enjoyed the show. 11% they don't care, and 2% that said they do not own a TV set. And it says it says there are 2 comments, but I only see 1. Hold on a second. Sometimes we hit this. Okay, there's the other one. I hate Ellen. So the other one says Yas first. So
All
so
right. People have spoken thus far. We'll see what happens next week.
yeah. So yeah, go ahead and vote. And we'll come back to this next week. Let me see if there's any other comments here. Wait 1 second. I'm trying to no more. No comments are and the questions are in the comment section, on the chat section there. So okay, I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and wrap everything up there. All right, Anna, anything else you'd like to say?
No, thanks for listening. Thanks for voting. Thanks for commenting, and we'll see you next week.
All righty. All right, thanks everybody. I'll go ahead and end this right here.